perspective, and the one that our counties, our cities, and our school boards deal with. And I want to make a couple of comments on that. Your point on this punitive aspect is also concerning to me, because sometimes it's a fine line, you know, and we need to err on the side of producing records, obviously. But I encourage anyone in this room or anyone listening, the thousands of people we have listening out here, never make a punitive request. Don't do something just to keep somebody busy, because what's going to happen is some of the colleagues of Senator Sullivan is going to say, look, you know, we're going to have to cut back FOIA. We're going to have to create another exemption. We're going to have to create another exception, and it's going to hurt those of us who have good faith in mind. So I encourage people never to do that. I've counseled several people. No, don't do that. We don't want frivolous entering the vocabulary from our side, because believe me, we have government saying that we're filing frivolous. Recently I'll be talking about a case I'm involved in where they said I spent all day in court, yet it was a frivolous lawsuit and they wanted attorney fees from me. But as you commented on, we do have the right to records, but your issue about businesses wanting a detailed report, you know, that's covered under FOIA too, and they can charge you for that report if they choose to say, look, I'll produce you a report, but we're going to charge you an hourly rate for it. So I think that's a good protection. Although recently, in a case involving a records request that I made on the Fort Smith Public Schools, they started that noise with me about they were going to charge me for records, and it had nothing to do with the report. And I thought it was just an excuse in trying to intimidate, and they're not going to intimidate me, but they may intimidate someone if they start, well, you can have these, but we're going to charge you X amount, because that's not what FOIA is about. We're entitled to this information, and we've got it's a fine, delicate balance. With that said, I want to talk to you about the application, I guess I would say, of FOIA in lawsuits. Because when Senator Sullivan creates laws, you know, they have practical effects. And FOIA, 1967, Governor Winthrop Rockefeller, we got our Sunshine Law in 1967. It's been known as the strongest law across the country, although I think recently it's been weakened somewhat, particularly with regard to meetings. But that's another subject for another day, and that's why it's important that we work with our legislators to strengthen FOIA. And we're going to be, and we did last time, we're going to be looking to define what a meeting is. And we're excited for the next legislative session. We built some foundations in the last legislative session, and so we'll be defining what a meeting is. That'll be good for the citizens, and it'll be good for school boards and city bodies to know, can I talk to this person? Can I talk to this? Can two school board members talk to each other about an issue that's coming before the board? Can three? Where is that line? So we hope to define that. All right. So I want to talk to you first of all about the Kristen Kitchens versus the City of Fort Smith case, which is a recent case. As you know, this was about and it's still going on. It is regarding a sales tax extension in Fort Smith involving millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars. What happened, they were considering basically how to allocate these sales tax funds, taking 1% of revenue coming in and how to allocate it. And I'm not going to get into the weeds with the details, but in essence there was a decision as to how we wanted to allocate that money. One of the proposals did not involve parks and recreation, the other one did. So the city administration sent out a memorandum regarding, in essence, two options that they were going to set for a special election. And a special election that was going to be set in 3 months. So you can see I FOIA'd the documents relating to this matter through the Freedom of Information Act. And one of the first documents I got back was a memo from our city director, our city administrator, I'm sorry, to the board of directors, talking about how since there are differing opinions among the board members, and since we do not want this topic to be bandied around in such a way that could deflect from the ultimate decision of the board, there are 3 options to consider. Well, when I see that, that's exactly what we want happening in our meetings. We want school board members, we want city administrators to be making the sausage in front of us. We don't want them talking on secret text message and email chains and at the back of McDonald's about the process to reach a decision. So, what we had in this particular case was what the Supreme Court said could not happen. A decision being made outside of the governing body, outside of their meeting. So what happened is that on the options, through a mechanism of controlling their agenda, they have a process where, maybe they don't want to hear a particular, don't want to hear this issue this month, so they kick the entire thing off and they control their agenda and they set it for next month. Well, what they did here is one of the directors asked that we had 2 competing options. We had option A and we had option B. So through their process, what they can do, and what they did do, is he called up the city clerk, who then polled every single board of directors. Do you vote for option A or do you vote for option D? And by a count of 5 to 2, they voted to do away with parks. You and I didn't get to see that discussion. That discussion occurred through a straw man, through the city clerk polling every board member. So what happens is, they get to the meeting the next week, and I'm watching it, and I'm hearing these conversations that start to occur about, for example, Director Settle, one of our board of directors, he started talking about, I know it got pulled, and I'm not trying to amend it and put it back in because I know the board doesn't wish that, but I wish we could have had that in there. And I'm scratching my head, and I start scrolling back, and I'm like, when did they talk about that in this meeting? And then another director, Director Good, he goes through this conversation in talking about the parks money, and so my wife's asked me, are you guys serious about doing this, something about the consent decree, or are you about playtime? And then he goes on to state, so it was a hard decision, but if we're serious about making this vote, then let's make sure we have the money we need to get it taken care of. So he's talking about making a decision, and again, I'm asking myself, where did this decision come? So, long story short, I FOIA'd the documents, got the documents, and I found out about this mechanism where the board had been polled the week before. And to me, and I think according to the law, that was a secret vote. In Fort Smith, we've got a sewer issue that's costing close to $1 billion to get fixed now. And so they're deciding how to divvy up the taxpayers' So it's a huge issue, and one that our city said that, well, we can't talk about this consent decree issue because the various government entities have a protective order. So only the citizens can't hear about this. They said that for literally 4 years until I called their hand on it. I FOIA'd the protective order. We got the protective order, and it said it was subject to FOIA. So in other words, all of this should be open. So it's in that spirit. So when I found out these things, we filed this lawsuit. Professor Steinbuck, my partner Stephen Navarino, and myself, we spent the whole day battling the city over should FOIA take precedent over you setting your agenda when it amounts to polling of the board. They want to use all these fancy words about, well, it wasn't polling, it was this, it was that. You know, if it looks like a skunk, it smells like a skunk, it's a skunk. So long story short, the court at the end of the hearing asked a couple of great questions. You know, what's stopping a city board from creating a laundry list of competing proposals in its agenda item and then whittling them down? That's exactly what they did in this case. Why poll all the board members when you only need 4 are required to remove an item? They polled all 7. And so, although he asked, you might have to come up here, Kevin. But maybe not. While the judge asked great questions, he ruled that the city had the ability and the right to control their agenda. So he ruled against us the next day in a written order. And I'm going to try this one more time. This is where I need that.
Look. Just. Okay, I'm here live.
Kevin, you might make your way up here. I'm probably going to lose it again. You got it.
Arkansas Transparency Symposium process here.